right, I believe we are live. All right, there we go. I believe we are live, and let's see. Let me double check on that. You never know with these kinds of things. Oh, gotta put the hat on as requested. The Robin Hood hat. Let's see. Oh, yes, I am live. All right. Hello to the hello to the few watchers. Hey, mom. Just kidding. Okay, so this is about my biggest client SEO sales mistakes. I was looking back over some of the things over my business and some of the things that I thought that would help people in terms of what not to do. And I think there's some pretty big misconceptions out there, along with some potential substantial roadblocks that that could really hurt you. And these are some real numbers in here. Obviously, there's somewhat of an estimate because you can't know exactly, but I'll explain why I have these numbers. And there's more mistakes than this as well. So, these are real numbers. I didn't just kind of like make this up. Well, let me see here. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in there. Hi, Doug. Okay. And if you haven't grabbed my cheat sheet on how to get SEO clients to approach you, then go to DDD for Digital Domination Dojo.link/SCA for SEO client attraction. Okay, let's go ahead and move into what is not on this list. This is actually pretty important because I think that there is some misunderstandings on some things that you should not do that are actually okay to do. Let me move my mug around. That I think many people think you shouldn't do. So first of all, and it is to have too high prices. Now, obviously, there does come a limit to where, yeah, 100,000 a month or something. I bet there are clients out there that are paying 100,000 a month, but it is possible to make a too high a price, but it's very unlikely that you're going to go too high. In fact, you're more likely to go too low at first. And so that's also one thing when I do my pricing, I always try to have a huge price package. Number one, to make the lower price packages look even lower. Number two, sometimes people take the top package. You never know who's like got a big budget. Every once in a while you'd be surprised. I've had some companies take the big budget that I just did not think that they were. So you never know. Too long of sales videos. This could be too long sales copy as well. This is something that, I still hear this among a lot of people who have done a lot of sales, which is if your sales copy is super long, they're just not going to pay attention to it. Well, that's not really true. If it's boring or uninteresting, then yes, they will stop paying attention to it. But if it's interesting to them and relevant to what they really like, then they will listen to it all day long, and for a very long time. I've had a plastic surgeon watch a 45-minute video the day I sent it to him. So a very busy person, because it was all about him and his business. And in fact, what I've found is that the longer the video, now without adding fluff, there's no fluff in there, but the longer I can make the video, the more likely they are to buy. The more they engage with me, the more they feel like they understand me. Just think about it like this: like if you're a fan of a sports team, how much content will you consume regards to that sports team? It basically is unlimited, practically, right? How much will you listen to someone talk about how awesome you are, or something like that? Talk about you and something that is very personal to you. Basically unlimited. Too low prices when you first get started. So. At my time, I would, this would be something that I would not do, but I did this early on, and actually, I think it's fine. Some people who say, you need to have a certain price. Well, I think early on, there's reason to start off at a low price, especially if you're being straightforward and honest with your customers and saying, I'm not super experienced. I have these things, these other people I've learned from these awesome people, and they have good results, but I'm not too experienced, and so I'm willing to give you a price cut. And that's fine because you're kind of being trained to learn. It's not where you want to end up, but I think starting there is fine. Giving too much value for free at the start. This goes back to the long sales video where when you give a lot of value in the sales video, they are likely, they're going to be engaged, and you're going to convince them more and more that you're an expert at what you do. And I wouldn't be too afraid. I wouldn't give away like my biggest secrets or anything, but pointing them to some things that can actually help them that's actionable is going to be helpful in terms of making them. It's not so much reciprocation as it is making them feel comfortable with you helping them. And also, you're kind of moving. If you kind of act as if they've already paid you, and they feel that, then they are more likely to pay you because they kind of are already feeling that. So they already feel like they've hired you to a certain degree. That's useful. And then telling people I don't do X service. There's a star here because there is there was a wrong way to do this in a right way. And one of my big mistakes was this. So actually, let me move into that because I believe it's the first one. Let's see if I can find a good place to put my face. Mishandling web design requests. Okay, so for a long time, I've did this several different ways. I would just say, look, I don't do web design. Sometimes I had people I liked and I'd forward them to them, and sometimes I just said, I'm not an artist, so go find somebody. That's fine. Just do some research and find your own. Not in like a rude way, but just in like go ahead. And doing this once like really wrong cost me at least $59,000. And the way I can say that is that this was for this one example. This was the client that has paid me the most. If I look at like the whole timeline of my business, they paid me the most. I want to say I didn't get the exact number. It's something like $150,000 total, and because they've been paying me like $3,300 a month for like 3 years. And they wanted a web design refresh, and I basically said I didn't do it. And what happened was they were like, okay, cool. And they went to a web design company, and that web design company sold them on SEO. And I got fired shortly after. And they didn't even like, even though the client I think liked me, people are non-confrontational. He didn't even say, oh, well, they said that this about you. Is this true? That's not what people are going to do, I guess. It's something that I would do, but it's not like something that most people will do. And so you do kind of need to consider passing them on to somebody who you have a little bit more of a relationship with, who's not going to try to sell them on SEO, not try to shit talk you. Because I feel pretty confident that they came in and they found some metrics or something that made it look like I was doing a poor job. And this was about almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And I check up on them every once in a while, and they're not doing any better than when I was, I'd actually ranked them, and they were getting traffic, but maybe they thought they could get more, and they probably could. So it's still very difficult for me to find a good web design company that I trust. It's not so easy, but at the same time, at least having a discussion with somebody and passing them to someone, while not being responsible for it and not offering this as a service and then trying to upsell it, and trying to mark it up so that you can sell it to them. That's not what I would want to do, but I do want to have somebody who look, I'm going to pass this to you. Don't try to steal the business. And I feel like that should work more often than not. Just because they want you to pass more to them, so presumably they will if you have a deal. But this company that they went to, they have no hard feelings. They have no obligation to me, so I don't think they did anything wrong. But this cost me big time, and it's $59,000 because it's how much they would have paid me between when they fired me and now, and they would have been paying me $3,300 forever. Mistake number 2: offering too low prices. I know I mentioned before that when you're first getting started, offering too low prices, if you think to get the experience, is useful, but overall you want to quickly move away from that. And there's always someone that will do it cheaper. And how much does this cost me? I don't know. I still have tried this. I keep trying. Every once in a while, I just keep trying this, and it just never works out. Like, for example, you see someone who's in a low competition market and you think, oh, this isn't going to cost me that much. I can rank them pretty easily. And so I try to accommodate like a smaller project with cheap people, and it just never works. It's never worked. Even when you try to do, normally I try to do at least like 2,000 a month for 6 months. Sometimes, I've tried doing like really, really small projects for like only a couple $1,000s, like $2,000 to $4,000 for really inexpensive, where I think I can just go in and do a few quick things, and they never take it. And I think there might have been one time when they took it, but then now I'm responsible for their SEO, even though it was a really low dollar package and it ends up not being worth it. So I wouldn't try to accommodate customers that are not a fit. Businesses that cannot afford SEO, don't be providing SEO services for them. It's kind of it's kind of that simple. And here's the thing: you think, well, I could get that money, right? But it's not just about getting that money. It's about, well, now you're spending time and energy with that person, and when you could have been spending it doing something more profitable. So you always have to think about what's the opportunity cost of working with them. In general, I would not recommend this. Again, unless you're just getting started out and you think of it more like a training experience. In that case, feel free to offer to get your first deal. My first deal I got for SEO was $225 a month for 12 months. Okay, so you think about that. That's like that. What they paid me in a year is most of the time is on the low end of what I would accept on a monthly basis. But I don't regret it. I got some experience. I made some mistakes, and yeah, that was not a problem. But definitely you want to move away from it right away. Okay, mistake number 3: offering SEO training to clients. It's hard to estimate the exact cost of this because it's probably mostly wasted time, but and also some wasted money. Most don't take me up on it, and so just waste my time. Even though they ask for it, they hear about it and they just don't. I don't know what it is. They don't want to do it. But also, I think it devalues the SEO services because they're trying to get a lower cost essentially, and not only that, but it's a lot more work than you would think to provide SEO training to a client, to a type of client situation. Okay, they're contacting, following up with them asking questions and checking up with you. It's super, super hard to train someone from nothing to being able to actually do their SEO. It's not impossible, but it's more work than you would think. And they always seem to mess it up as well. I have a few examples where they try to do it themselves, and it's just like, what? But also by comparison, if you're looking at like you're offering the SEO services and the training, it makes the SEO services, it just makes that price seem bigger, right? You don't want to do that. This is a funny thing. Okay. If you're with me right now and you haven't grabbed the SEO client attraction cheat sheet, check out the link, ddd.link/SCA. Okay. Mistake number 4, not drawing clear scope. Now, this is something that I have fixed over the last several years. Oh, let me move myself so you can see that wonderful Dilbert cartoon. I believe I'm much better about this than I was originally. And because they will ask you to do everything, and if you let them. But if you draw clear lines, and then that doesn't mean you can't go outside the lines, but you draw clear lines from the beginning, and then when you let them know that sometimes you might go outside the lines, but you're under zero obligation to do so. And then this is why you have an agreement, not so much to keep them on contract for X amount of months, but so that what are they paying for is extremely explicit and not uncertain terms. And also this is not necessarily on them. A lot of people, they don't know. They think SEO and web designer is the same thing. They think SEO and pay-per-click are the same thing. They don't know. So you kind of have to educate them and be like, look, this is not part of the scope. This is not what I'm offering you. I'm not going to come fix your computer, even though I may be able to, right? I'm not going to run your Facebook ads. If I'm not going to make Facebook posts. I'm not going to blog for you. I'm not going to Be your artist. Okay, these are the things that I'm not going to do. And clearly defining the scope is super, super, super important. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of extra time. They're going to be asking you for all these things and testing your limits, and as a result, you're going to make less money because you're not going to have time to do the other things that are more profitable in your business. Okay, productizing. Let's see if I can move this. Now, this is going to be one of the mistake number 5. I tried productizing my business. All right, and this is based upon a good book, Built to Sell. And in this book, he talks about how basically moving. He actually gives an example of like a design agency that goes that goes from being a service agency to kind of more productizing their service and becoming much more scalable, much more profitable. And it's a good idea, and it's good in theory and even in practice for some businesses. And I still think it could have worked had I had kind of the big picture here. But in the end, I actually tried this twice at 2 different times, and I wasted $15,000 and $37,000 basically paying real salespeople to try to sell this. And basically what I was trying to do, was model. There are several companies that have built really good, valuable companies. Bloomberg is an example. They have a Bloomberg report. Let's see, Bloomberg. I'm going to search this up. Report pricing, which is sort of like a market research report. And I can't remember but they have like, I don't know if it's the Bloomberg report, but there are several businesses that are like this, where they provide like B2B business information, and they charge like $50,000 a year or something like for. So I was trying to provide like a $20,000 a year type of productized SEO research and development to sell to bigger companies. And I still think it was a good idea. I just think that the kind of the timeline to get it off the ground and the money, I think it would have costed. It would have been a 1 to 2 year timeline and costed me a couple $100,000 because the sales cycle is much longer. There's a lot more outbound. You need a lot of salespeople. They need to go through a lot of reps. There's a lot of testing and tuning of the communication. And so it was a completely different business model. But not knowing how deep I would have had to go cost me a lot of money, because I really probably shouldn't have done it unless I had like a much bigger budget and a much longer timeline where I could still absorb everything. Okay. We're almost to the really big one, which I think will surprise you if you're still with me. It's not normal. Hey, Rob, how's it going? Let's see. Oh, let me see if I'm trying to fix my face here. Okay. Mistake number 6, allowing the client to do part of the work that I would normally do. So there are some things that they're always going to do. For example, they're involved in the keyword research. Because I need to get feedback on what they want. So there's no avoiding that. Well, it's not entirely true. How's it going, Prasanna? And I'm not sure how much this cost me, but it's definitely cost me a few clients and also wasted time. And I get this question a lot, common question, like, Sally here wants to do some of the SEO. We want to be able to take that on. Can you reduce your costs sometimes, or can she help you in these areas? And I used to try to fit that in, but in general, and it's only for, I try to fit in what I already want them to do, which is their copy on their site, their content. It's this is similar to the scope thing I talked about before. Which is, you want to define the scope, and you want to just be like, look, this is what you're hiring me for. I'm going to be able to do this much better, and I'm going to be responsible for it, and this is a critical thing to do right. And yeah, there are some things that I can help them do. A lot of times what they have is they have a resource, and they want the resource with extra bandwidth, and they want to make sure they want to utilize that resource. They don't want to waste money, which is understandable, but you have to be firm. And I had this with a recent client, and they were fine with it. I was firm with, these are the things that you can do, and these are the things that you can't do. And basically the things that you can do were things that I already wanted to do in the first place. So that was good. You kind of really only want one cook in the kitchen. And ultimately, you're still responsible for the results. So even if you try to pass it on to someone else and they do a bad job, it's still going to come back on you. Now, I had an example, and this is not uncommon. This has happened more than once, but one particular example is coming to mind where a company hired a marketing manager, and she said she was like, "Oh, I studied SEO in college. Like I think she took a class on like digital marketing, and they had like a couple weeks about SEO." And so she went in and made a bunch of changes, and surprise, surprise, it hurt them, right? And so this is something that you want to try to nip in the bud right from the beginning, and try to make it clear that no one else is in there tinkering with the things that are important, the things that you define as important, which I outline. Okay, and now for the final one. This is the big one. This is the one that I have not heard other people mention is such a huge mistake, but when I ran the numbers, it kind of shocked me how big of a mistake this is. And this is the one that I estimated $189,000. I'm going to explain how I came to that number, and I think it's a pretty good number. And yeah, let's just get into it. So I call this one stepping, or maybe another way to put it would be short stepping, or being lazy. And this has cost me at least $189,000. And basically, this is kind of shortchanging your sales process, thinking that you can pull certain pieces out that are critical to the conversion process. So what I'd been doing for several years was an incoming call or an email, a discovery call, a sales video, a closing call, and then an agreement payment. So these are all individual steps. Sometimes, like, they call me and I just pick up the phone and I move immediately into the discovery call. But then each one of these, the rest of these are actual individual steps done at a different time. And what I had done was there was kind of like a low value client that had come in, and there was some other information that suggested that maybe I could do this. And so I thought, I don't want to have to spend a lot of time selling to this person, so I'm going to try. They called me, do the discovery process, do a quick analysis, try to sell them right there, do the sales and the sales video essentially right there, the sales presentation, and try to close and get the agreement right there in one step. And actually, the first time I tried it, it seemed like it worked. The guy agreed. And so I marked it as like, hey, that's awesome. That was way less work. Spent an hour on the phone as opposed to doing all these different steps. And so for I can't remember how long I tried it for. It was probably about a year. Let's say roughly a year. I was like, cool, let's do this. And I was like, well, maybe if they're like a really high-end client, I'll do sales video. And what happened was I looked back at some point and I was like, wait, I'm not getting the sales that I normally get with the kind of the unit of people coming in my door. And so I kind of compared how much money I would have made with this kind of the set of people that came to me versus before when I was doing the other process, and I came up with $189,000. Right? So it was not small. And that I would not skip any of these steps at this point. And there are a few things that I do, extra things that I do to qualify someone to where sometimes I just don't do that. Like if either I try to sell to them, or I just don't do the sales video, closing call, agreement payment. Or I cut the discovery call short. And there's some questions that I do ask that help me get to this a little bit better than I used to, so if they're like a super low value client, I just kind of just stop. I don't do the whole process. So that's my kind of way. But if there's any chance that reasonable chance that they are going to be a qualified client, then I go ahead and just do the whole process, because I just know that it provides my business so much more value. Let's move me. Maybe I'll go next to the OMG guy. There we go. So what are some of the reasons why this sucks? The one-stepping. I think that part of this is the anticipation. When you start the process You have a discovery call. They feel like they connect with you a little bit. They feel like you know what you're talking about. And now they're anticipating seeing what you can provide them. You're building anticipation. And it makes them more and more eager. Now, you don't want to go too long, but like, at least 24 hours from when you take in the information to when you give them the sales video. This is super critical, going from the discovery to the sales video. I think it's also, there's a sense of thoroughness. I tell, if I'm trying to one-step them, I'm clearly, they can kind of feel or see the whole time it takes. With this, it feels much more thorough. Like I'm actually checking a lot more things. And in reality, I am checking a bit more things, but not like as much more. But it's like, okay, I'm running reports. I tell them this, right? I'm going to run some reports. I'm going to do some brainstorming. I'm going to think about it on your behalf. I think also there's a sense of understanding them and their situation when you take a little bit more time. Not too much time, but a little bit more time. As opposed to just like, oh, okay, cool. Look, I'm just going to sell you this right here. I think it built a stronger connection. There's this, I heard this and it makes sense, and I can't confirm this, but I think that this is basically true, and this is true just for clients. With like a pickup artist type technique is, if you spend 3 hours, let's say you meet a girl that you want to date, and you spend 3 hours with her at one place versus 1 hour individually. Like you take, after the first hour, you take her to like the place next door, and then and after another hour, you take her to the place next door. So total time is the same. Like the connection is going to feel deeper and stronger and more thorough with the multiple kind of locations and environments and situations. All right. And so I think this is the same thing for the clients. They feel a stronger connection when you have different environments, different contexts with which you interact with them, with which they see what you're doing. And they get to experience you. So, okay. So if you haven't already, go to ddd.link, so digitaldomination.link, or ddd.link/SCA for SEO Client Attraction, and get the SEO Client Attraction cheat sheet. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the box now. Otherwise, I'm going to go get back to work. I'll give people a few seconds to answer while I check some other things real quick. Well, no questions. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. Let me know if you have any questions. You can shoot a message to me in multiple formats. I appreciate you watching this, if you're watching it recorded or live. And thanks. Have a great day. Bye.